Good afternoon, everyone. The title of my presentation is A Reading in the Poetry of the Afro-German May Ayim from Dual Inheritance Theory Perspective, the impact of Audre Lorde on May Ayim. Here, this picture features May Ayim and Audre Lorde, and I titled it Culture and Motherhood because Audre Lorde, an African-American poet, impacted and influenced May Ayim, which is, who is an Afro-German poet. Yeah. I'd like you to look at these two quotations. One by Chancellor Paul Apneger, do you have a home to go to? And one by May Ayim, aka May Opitz. The differences among the humans, the result of genetic difference or mutable environmental differences. I'd like you just to remember the two quotations and you think of an answer for this. Here is what I call a three-step dream. I have a dream, this by Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963. He said, I have a dream, just to see everyone treated as equal. Then after 45 years, President Obama from Chicago delivered his victory speech saying, yes, we can. He answered what Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1964 in Germany when he went there and he compared between the wall of Berlin and the segregation walls in the United States that segregated the colored and the whites. But up until now, racist practices haven't been demolished, right? Am I right? Yes, so I wonder if someone will come in the future saying, we did it because we could. We demolished and obliterated all racist practices everywhere on the globe. The main points are dual inheritance theory, Black German history, Afro-Americans in Germany, Audre Lorde's influence, May Ayim, and the findings, the conclusion, and further study. Dual inheritance theory could simply discusses the mutual impact between the environment and the biological genes. The mutual impact results from the cultural coevolution of modes of expression and of genetically psychological predispositions and cognitive structures which store reactions against racism. As you see, the cultural traits are transmitted from generation to generation, and the distribution of phenotypes and genotypes are evenly and equally done from generation to generation. This to say that the African-American people transmit the biological genes to their children, and the environment impacted and influenced the transmission process. Here, we say genetic and cultural coevolution interact and impact one another. Three theoretical bases support this point. First, according to dual inheritance theory, the storage and transmission capacity in the human mind is caused by an evolved psychological mechanism. Consequently, by governing the formation of the human brain and its structure and through psychological predisposition, genes influence the human capacity for cultural learning. For example, the psychological atmosphere surrounding African-American households develop a tendency in young children towards lose. Second, cultural evolution and transmission is different from genes, and therefore the former's effects are different yet helpful in explaining different kinds of human behavior. Third, coevolution of culture and genes may show itself in the changes caused by culture to the physical environment of genes. Therefore, cultural practices most likely influence the trait selection and frequencies of genes in a population. In return, genes responding to the adaptive nature of culture may refine the cognitive structure, I quote, which stores and transmits cultural information. I'll give you an example of this. It was proven that women who used to raise cattle have the ability to lactate newborns more than any other woman in the world. I mean that the cultural practice modify the biological genes. So, in similarity, we can say that the cultural practices that have been done by the African-American through ages modify the biological genes. So there's no difference between white and colored, synthetically. Here we have Audre Lorde as a cultural mother. She has transmitted many cultural values, such as Black American feminist culture practice of protest, different attitudes towards racial issues, social mobility, and even altruistic behavior to Black German, especially to Ayim. And Ayim, of course, have been influenced by Lorde in her poetic and political thinking. We come to the second point, Black German history. And before talking about the history of Black Germans, we should bear in mind, I quote, race is neither an essence nor a scientific fact of biology. Individuals are not born raced, but rather become raced subjects through complex social process of constructing meaning. Of course, the relationship between Africa and Germany dates back to time immemorial. It was said that an African skull was found in Düsseldorf, which dates back to the Stone Age. And in 1600, a lot of African people were, taken to live in Germany, the most abundant of whom was Anton Wilhelm Amo, who later became a professor of philosophy. The two world wars, especially the Second World War, left us with many bad names that were stuck in the back of the African children in Germany. Such names are Rhineland pastors, the brown baby, patient children, half-breed child or mongrel child, and because U.S. soldiers, U.S. African-American soldiers fathered almost 80% of the mixed blood children, was seen as an American problem. And most colored children unjustly underwent sterilization in the first 4 decades of the 20th century. We have science such as Kushner and C continued their work on mixed blood children after the Second World War, focusing on children with African American paternity. And other science, all those scientists who supported the idea of inequality-based biological differences were proven wrong. Why? I quote, "Science has recently discovered that 0.1% of our genes determine our appearance. Afro-German children suffered a lot and they were exploited and shown in movies as exotic. An example is Elfie Friedrich, a colored child who starred as Toxie in Toxie and as Moni in The Dog Stall. And any attempts that were made to adopt the children were seen as risking their lives." The third point is Afro-Germans, Afro-Americans in Germany. The first example of collaboration between Afro-Americans and the Afro-Germans or the civilians, the white Germans, was in the form of the Call for Justice meeting held on July 4th, 1971. And the East German government hailed civil rights activists as the heroes of the other America, of the America of the oppressed. As I said before, Martin Luther King went there in 1964 and he compared the Wall of Berlin with the walls of segregation in the United States. The fruit of the collaboration between African American thinkers and Afro-German writers came in the form of a seminal book which is showing our colors. In this book, 13 Afro-German women were given voice and they started establishing institutions to defend their rights. One of them, of course, is May Ayim, who is considered an important figure in Afro-German literature, and the loss of who is great. Unfortunately, she committed suicide in 1996, leaving the world because of racism. The influence of Lorde and Ayim is seen in the poetry written by Ayim. In Soul Sister, May Ayim mourns the death of Audre Lorde, and at the same time she points out that Audre Lorde exerted a lot of effort to coin the term Afro-German and support and help Afro-German women getting their rights. Lorde recognized that Afro-Americans and Afro-Germans have much in common. She advocated interaction and conflict between all African people in the African diaspora. And she believed that, I quote, "Hyphenated people upon whom I believe hope for the well future rests." In Afro-German One, a poem written by Ayim, we see how the white Germans see Afro-Germans as mixed, a freak of nature. This is a dialogue between a white German and an Afro-German. The white German says, I quote, "You are Afro-German. Ah, I understand. African and German. There is an interesting mix." In Afro-German too, she criticized German history. I quote, "German history isn't something one can really be proud of, is it? And you're not that black anyway, you know." Lorde visited Germany, and there she found that the situation was very bad for Afro-German women. In East Berlin, she points out, I quote, "It feels dangerous now to be black in Berlin because a lot of accidents happen by skinheads against Afro-German women." In fact, the fall was of the Berlin Wall of racism. Ayim expressed her feelings after the fall in autumn in Germany. I quote, "Antonio Amedio from Angola was murdered by neo-Nazis. That's how it is, autumn in Germany." She means that autumn in Germany comes with many murders against African people. The image of the oppressed Ayim draws in Autumn in Germany is Lorde's Peace on Earth. Ayim's poem singled out the murder of Antonio Amedio, while Lorde's portrayed a bloody image of mass murder. As you see here in the quotation, a lot of proud children running, scrambling around the globe, flames through the rubble, bombs bursting air, Panama, Nablus, Gaza. Tear gas clouding the native zone. It means that brown children everywhere were being hard done by. Again, back to Chancellor Stoll's languid and welcoming interrogation. "Out, nigger, don't you have a home to go to?" At this point, Afro-Germans have been at real stake. Ayim says, I quote, "I now had to protect myself almost daily against undisguised insults. And a 10-year-old African boy was thrown out of a crowded U-Bahn train to make room for a white German." How oppressive. So Ayim's reaction to Cole's interrogation was a poem titled "Borderless and Brazen," a poem against the German "you, not you." In this poem, she points out that she's free to go, she's free to be called African or German without being interrogated. Again, back to the question posed by Ayim at the beginning of the presentation. Were differences among humans the result of genetic difference or mutable environmental differences? I'm waiting for your answer at the end of the presentation. I myself, I argue that emotional features, according to DIT, are affected by environmental factors so much that, with the passage of time, the offspring of a black generation will genetically acquire the same characteristics of the natives. Here in these two poems, Lorde Swarasata and Ayim's Brothers in Arms, Sisters of the Sword, we see an apocalyptic vision of colored people's future. Why? Because they fight against each other. They do not fight a common enemy. They do not fight racism. Yeah, an image of death in life, political state of catatonia, prevails in both poems. Lorde's a poem for a poet, and Ayim's No More Rotten Grey for a colored republic. And in both poems, you see negligence of the rights of the colored people and how the whites exploited them in times of elections. Then, after that, they are ignored as ever. Again, in Lorde's A Litany for Survival and Ayim's The Time Thereafter, a dream deferred and the possibility of its realization is seen. In Ayim's poem, she refers to Kings, I Have a Dream, saying, "They have preserved your dream, preserved and sold it, brother. Postcards and poster, 3 lines in a history book. I have a dream." It means that the dream was already sold. There is no dream. Finally, there are strong ties between black people who are exposed to the same circumstances especially in the United States and Germany. And correlations between Homo sapiens with fully developed cultural genes and the country they have been born and raised in give them equal rights in this country and let them stand on equal footing with others who have lived and have been exposed to the same circumstances. Therefore, Afro-Germans and Afro-Americans are every inch Germans and Americans respectively, and any probable biological defects that may appear in colored people can, with the same claim, appear in white people. Cultural genes for revolution against racism and injustice have been transmitted through Afro-American cultural models to Afro-Germans, which created a common cause. Long-standing communications between white Germans and Afro-Americans in the United States and later between Afro-American soldiers and scholars and Afro-Germans in Germany prove that genotypic as well as phenotypic traits can be transmitted among the cultural groups. Afro-Americans such as Nancy Hughes and Afro-Germans such as May Ayim felt strange when they visited Africa. This proves that homeland, supposed to be basic to one's well-being, is where one is born and raised so long as one is treated as equal to any other, regardless of color or race. Conclusion. Genetics, as well as cultural coevolution, has undergone processes of mutations and assimilations, which make it impossible to say that black or white peoples have been categorized according to the evolution of their genes, either biological or cultural, thus proving German nativity of Afro-Germans. Although both segregated Germany supported Afro-Americans in their struggle for equality and freedom, they even up until now recognize their own flesh and blood fellows as equal. Further research. A field study can be conducted by conducting interviews and filling in questionnaires, and different kinds of cultural transmission can be traced. Other disciplines such as sociology, sociobiology, psychology, and politics can conduct interdisciplinary studies based on this study. So differences relate to what? To biological genes or to what? There are differences between races. Do these differences come from biological genes, or from the environmental practices, or from both? This is a very important question that can solve a lot of problems.
Social environment.
Social environment. Yeah. Because if I take a white baby to South Africa, where Dr. Sam comes from, and they let him be raised there, he will acquire all the social practices of the South African people. So it doesn't, it doesn't go with biological genes. So if you are okay, if you are intelligent, it's because of, social practices you have been practiced all over your life. It's not because you are white or colored.
Sure.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.